Whew, okay, first fast session since the Masters last Saturday. But this video isn't about the Masters. This video is about final thoughts on the North Downs Way, which I completed about a month ago. It's been playing around in my head a little bit, just things I did wrong, things I could have done better. So let me grab a shower, grab some food and talk all things North Downs Way 100. Let's go. No, I wasn't expecting to be here either. That was a long shower. Alright, it's Saturday, 2 weeks before the Eco Trail 80k that I'll be doing. Seems to be the only chance I get to do some videoing these days. So back to the North Downs Way. Okay, a bit of a comedy of errors really. Lots of rookie mistakes that I should have known better, but sometimes you need to be taught a lesson numerous times before you learn the lesson. So first one was my travel plans the day before the race. Madness. The day before running a 100-mile race. Let's not make these races any harder than they need to be, right? So planes, trains, buses, automobiles, madness. So without going into the detail, doing all my travel the day before was just insanity. I think in my head I had this idea that the plane was going to touch down at the start line and I just get out and run. Didn't figure all the logistics either side. So lesson number one, give yourself at least a day to chill out before a 100-miler. Okay, number two, the obvious one from my race was my watch. Again, you know, these things don't need to be any harder than they already are. I knew my Garmin was temperamental. It can be tricky to get it to charge. It freezes when you try to load maps. You know, it's not a cheap watch either. So I saw the Apple the other day announced their Apple Watch Ultra. Probably not the best, but certainly moving in the right direction. I'll take a look at it. But yeah, so next Ultra I do, it will have sufficient battery for the whole race, or I will be confident that I can charge it mid-race and it will carry me to the end of the race. So this dying battery in my watch thing, you've seen that for the last time. And that was a bit of a pain for two reasons. One, obviously, you know, I didn't accurately know the distance that I did. And two, obviously, for the maps, which was probably the main thing. You know, everybody talks about these races being well marked, but, you know, all you need are one or two areas where it's not quite as well marked as you would like, and you've just generally missed a turn off. It's not that you take a wrong turn off, because if you're thinking about the turn off, then you're in the right place. It's just missing that turn off, seeing something that leads you up a road, or particularly at night. There were some areas where the markers were sparse, and you know, it just had that doubt in your head, am I going the right way? And I did turn back a couple of times and met people then, and you know, you're just throwing away time unnecessarily. So lesson two, the watch is going to be sorted. Okay, three is an interesting one. This is probably the one that bounced around in my head more than anything else, because I hadn't found myself in this situation to the same degree before, which is not being able to take in anything, and that includes water for the longest time. So there were about, I would say, almost 12 hours, certainly between 10 and 12 hours, where my calorie intake, if I were to estimate it, I would say was somewhere in the region of I don't know, 300 or 400 calories, I'd say, total, which of course is way less than you need. But the interesting piece is that, yeah, I finished the race. You know, I didn't finish too far away from what I was hoping to do. You know, yeah, I wanted to go sub 20, and that didn't happen, but finished sub 22, which, you know, as I say, it's not a million miles away. It's probably 2 hours of walking. But my takeaway from being able to go for this extended period of time without taking in the calories necessary was just that, yeah, we can do it. We have the calories on our body in the form of fat, and maybe I shouldn't have fought it as much. You know, it's just that I was really, you know, God, I need to be taking calories. If I'm not taking calories, I can't possibly finish this race. And what I learned is, you know, yeah, you can. Yeah, that's not to say you shouldn't obviously try to take in the calories, but it's certainly possible. And I know for sure there are fat adapted runners, Ian Keith being a good example in Ireland, who go for very, very long times without taking calories in. So that was an interesting one. That's when it's an extra arrow in my quiver going forward when the wheels come off. I was saying, you know what, I've been here before and I can do this. You know, that North Downs Way was the tester, so it's done. Another rookie mistake, and I've told people as advice that I give to them on numerous occasions, don't carry too much. And I carried too much. You know, I think part of it was I didn't have crew and I didn't really know what was going to be at the aid stations, so I wanted to carry things that I felt were good for me, but it just meant then that I carried more. You know, I was carrying enough for your first drop bag is 50 miles, so if you're going to be carrying 50 miles worth of gear, it's a lot of stuff. So I did, you know, eat at the aid stations, but then you're eating all these things because in the first half your stomach feels great and therefore you throw everything in, but of course it catches up on you. You're not really digesting it, and yeah, wheels came off in that regard. And even at the 50-mile mark, I mentioned it in the race video, I kind of fully reloaded, whereas at that point I knew what was at the aid stations and I shouldn't have been carrying. Oh, came out like a fully laden mule out of that halfway aid station. And I continued to carry that stuff then, which was another disaster, right to the end of the race, even though I didn't have a bit of it. I'm going to state the obvious now, but you add up all these little mistakes and they add up to a lot of time. So, and a lot of them are things that have nothing to do with your running ability. So why not make life easy for yourself and just engage brain and do these things? And I know them, you know, the fact I'm saying them here is by way of making myself accountable, saying, Dave, you know this stuff, you shouldn't be doing this stuff. Okay, so I've made it to the finish line here in Bray, start finish line of the Eco Trail. Met a few people on the run there, so I didn't get to continue my story of the North Downs Way, so let's head back to the house where I'll complete that tale. Alright, back in the house, there's just one or two final things I want to mention. Let me get set up here with this for a second here. That work? That should do it. Alright, final few items. One is an item that really worked out quite well for me at times, and it's a bit like hitching your wagon to a star. So when people were coming past me later on in the race, I really tried to cling on to them for a while, and there was one guy, I think he was alright with it, but I managed to run with him for quite a long time. And in hindsight, we got into an aid station and he went off, and I stuck around for a little while, but I should have maybe tried to cling with him a bit longer, because I found I could zone in and run with him, whereas when I was on my own, obviously I had that issue that we've already mentioned around maybe getting lost or not being 100% sure of the way, but also I could kind of zone out and just kind of watch his legs and move along that way. So that's just something that if you find yourself struggling at the end of an ultra, just, you know, as somebody's coming past you, or if there's somebody that you catch up with, and maybe it helps you to kind of tag along with them. I think that was something that worked out. With regards to the North Downs Way, you are allowed pacers. Now obviously I didn't have a pacer available, but definitely that would have helped me if I had somebody that I could have called on, you know, or that I had arranged to be a pacer. I think from the 50-mile mark onwards you're allowed a pacer, so that is something that's worth considering. The other thing that's a little bit different about the North Downs Way is that, and I mentioned it in the race video, that the crew stations are in different locations than the aid stations. So you really could have a lot of support available to you if you had a crew there also. So I didn't have a crew, didn't really matter, but it might have just helped with diagnosing and being able to help my digestive stomach issues. But you know, the other downside to having a crew, of course, is that I didn't really have an out. You know, obviously if you have a crew, you have that potential to say, yeah, look, my race is done here, I'm going to hop in the back of the car and let's just go home. Whereas to me, it never really came into my head that my race was over. Because you know, I didn't feel like I had anywhere else to go than the finish line, where my drop bag with my sleeping bag and my mat and pillow were. So it was relentless forward progress. Alright guys, that's it really for the North Downs Way recap and final thoughts. I know it might sound like I'm beating myself up a little bit over the errors, but you know, I'm not too worried about any of them. They're all things that are obvious and that we should all know. Sometimes we forget them, and sometimes, you know, in the heat of the moment we don't do things that in hindsight we know we should be doing. But at the end of the day, it's about getting to the finish line, and I'm very happy to have pulled in under 22 hours for a race that probably ended up being about 105, 106 miles. We'll never know since my watch died. But no, I stand by my record so far. No DNFs, long may it run, let's see. But the important thing is to take the learnings from it and to move on. So onwards and upwards, and for now, it's over and out.